So good afternoon, everyone. I'm VasukiVardhan. So I work as a tech lead here at GeekyAnts. Right. So today I'm going to talk about a bit of ethics that we usually encounter and or even think about while using AI in DevOps. From past few months, we are already riding the generative AI wave, right? So a lot of things have been happening. We are seeing multimodal models coming to a very huge play, and a lot of things have just burst open through a bubble, right? So you're trying to figure out a lot of productive ways to use AI, and also a lot of creative ways as well, right? So one of the key areas that even we were thinking about in Geekants and also using is using the power of AI in our DevOps processes, right? So that can be our traditional old GitOps, DevOps, or even today's MLOps processes, right? So we are mostly looking into the kind of biases required or debiasing required uh, while using AI in DevOps, who are all accountable for all the moving components in the entire pipeline, and also the amount of transparency and all the areas of transparency that we think that needs to be available to implement DevOps in any kind of platforms, right? So basically, taking the first part out is transparency, right? So when you're dealing with a lot of these enterprise infrastructures, so and every single component is crucial, right? So every decision that the AI model is taking should be explainable, right? So you should be able to explain why this decision was made or why the AI is able to take this decision low. So let's say a very basic example is when you are creating a deployment, and let's say you are implementing AI to uh, predict and apply a set of migrations onto your database, right? So let's say that is a small use case that you're looking into, right? So if the seeding has happened or the migration has happened or not is something that needs to be explainable, or how it happened, right? And lot of these models are mostly black boxes, as we've seen, like let's take up Gemini, ChatGPT, or Gemma, or any other open source models as well. Until and unless you have the ability to go deep into the code and understand those things, even for the open source models, most of these models are black boxes. It is a pretty complicated set of nodes that you need to understand. So for most of our DevOps engineers, this is mostly a black box, right? So you give a feature input and some output decision is being made. So probably you'll need to look at some kind of simplifications or explainable points using Lime and Chab model, so that you create a bit of transparency to those black boxes and understand how those models are working, right? And also the feature importance, right? So let's say you're running a set of features through the pipeline, right, which needs to get deployed or modified, or any of those pointers, or even or your own feature onto an AI system, right? So let's say you're building an AI model and you're deploying it. So the main work of the AI model is to go ahead and deploy a few microservices, right? So let's say it is doing a set of command executions with SSH, a remote SSH is just logging into your servers and running a few set of commands, right? So let's say that is one of the particular feature that you're implementing, that AI would execute or take decisions while execution, right? So also need to make sure and properly lay out the importance of that feature, right? So that everyone who is actually consuming your model knows why this feature is there. And this applies for application developers as well, when you're giving your AI supported applications to get deployed in regular DevOps models, traditional DevOps models, or even the DevOps models, right? So you'll need to specifically have to declare the future importance. So if you're in your traditional DevOps system, let's say you are going and deploying a few decision making models into your application, which is using a lot of your critical data, right? So you'll also need to specify upfront to the DevOps teams, okay, this is the importance of this AI feature. So, and these are all the dependent data, all of these things, right? So that even they are aware of it. And also the same ways, otherwise, if they are using AI, then they will be very transparent with the AI application development team, saying that, okay, this is a feature that we have. All of your SSH commands that goes into the server, and the way that your application is booted up is actually an AI model which is taking care of everything, right? So that particular thing is more clearer, right? And the third part is algorithmic bias, right? So let's take up a few things in terms of the very basic example that I can give you is share market kind of AI models, right? So which you are deploying, that needs to have some kind of algorithmic bias, right? So your models needs to be fair with all the deployments going forward, right? Let's say you are having a bit of a dip or a spike in the market, and the data that you're using to train this model for your usage, let's say, has a list of uh, history that you have given, and there is a clear set of biases that you see, right? So probably the market has favored a certain sector of industries and not in favor of a certain sector of industries, right? So the model that you would be building and deploying will also carry on or inherit that biasing. Your model will still go ahead and keep the same biasing up and alive, and not prioritizing or giving a fair shot to there's a certain set of in industries that was deprioritized before, and it will always prioritize the industries that were given a positive bias, right? So you'll need to create an algorithmic plan or a set of, or create a fairness of aware data augmentation, so that the data that you are feeding into your AI model is mostly bias free, right? None of the data is 100% bias free. That is always there, because the data augmentation is done by a set of humans, right? So data data biasing will always be there, but the point over there is to make sure that we don't have a lot of bias into any of those data sets, right? And the same goes with the AI models as well. So let's say you are deploying a certain set of front end applications and a back end set of applications, right? So historically, if your DevOps pipelines have been prioritizing backend stability over front end stability, the AI model that you will be building now with that data will also go ahead and prioritize backend stability more over front end stability, right? Because the data suggests that this is the bias that is provided. So you need to make sure that you provide almost equal bias onto both front end and back end, so that applications are deployed in a more fair manner and stability is mostly same across the table, right? So the next thing is detecting biases and how to mitigate it, right? So first thing is auditing, right? Every single data that is being used to train the DevOps AI model, or even your regular AI model, needs to be properly audited by multiple sources, so that you have a certain set of fair data, and you reduce bias by doing multiple pass of auditings, right? So that will help you a lot in terms of creating transparency as well, and it will also mitigate the biases that the model would create, right? And then standardization of metrics. So all the metrics that you are using, so probably in terms of, let's take the share market model itself, right? So it also takes through the demographic parity, all the equal opportunity scoring and everything into consideration, and you'll need to standardize it. So what exactly are we looking at? So all the metrics that you are using to monitor your AI model, or even the metrics that you're using to train your AI model, should be more or less standardized, right? So this goes the same for application AI and also our infrastructure AI that we will be building, right? And also creating a diverse set of teams that is reviewing and going through your AI models, right? So let's take the front end back end biasing itself, right? So it's not just the infra team or the backend team who is more looking into how this deployment is happening and how your platform is being more stable, right? So your front end team will also be having their own set of point of view, saying that okay, this is probably not the right way of doing it. This will hamper front end's performance or a few other parameters over there, and there will be a certain set of parameters that the AI has used during training, which has led to a certain blind spots in backend. Right, so few, let's say, port monitoring or something has gone through, which is letting probably a security issue or a stability issue, something like this. Right, so you diversify the teams that have been involved into your AI development so that you reduce the blind spots, right? So you don't have a lot of surprises going forward and figure out, okay, we hadn't seen this coming, right? So if you involve a larger community reviewing your model, diverse set of people, all those perspective will make a lot of difference in addressing those blind spots and also mitigating the biases that might have been fed into during training, right? And coming to accountability, every single AI model that is being shipped out, or AI based applications that have been shipped out, needs a set of governance policies by default, right? At any one point of time, at least for now, human oversight or human interventions will be required, and the current, even the generative AI, larger LLMs are not mostly bug free, right? So AI will hallucinate, AI will take some missteps, or AI may take some surprising steps, might be good or bad, right? So your human oversight is always required, right? So mostly the DevOps pipeline, let's say every DevOps pipeline is now looked after by an AI model. That doesn't mean that it has reduced the requirement of DevOps engineers. It's just that the DevOps engineers who are writing the code, managing those pipelines, are more gone into monitoring mode. Every deployment that is going through is being looked after by them. Let's say if AI is going haywire and doing something, or it is touching, since it has a lot of touch points, right? It also has access to your server. It also has access to your database and everything. Let's say it is going haywire, you need a DevOps engineer to come in, cut the pipeline, take it back up, and rectify a few things so that it becomes a learning back to the AI model, right? So human oversight is always required, and while doing that, you will also create an audit trail. So you always record all the steps, all the decisions taken by the DevOps model during the entire deployment process, right? So that you get more clarity on what were all what are the decisions being made and what were the parameters for the decisions being made. And as I said before, your all the training data that is being fed into the AI model during the training phase needs to be audited, right? So that you are not leaking out any PIA information or giving out any biases during the data, right? And audit trailing during training of the AI models is more in general, both for the AI in DevOps and AI in applications, right? So let's say you are creating an AI model for restaurants, right? So all the data that is being fed as a part of training, you need to audit it so that phone numbers of real customers or names of real customers or a set of allergic information linking to a particular customer is not being fed through, right? So you'll need to keep a track of all the things that are being happening. and it's also mostly a shared responsibility. An AI model that is being run either on DevOps pipelines or in application is shared responsibility. It is like not like a single person is responsible for um, the AI's entire performance, right? So it's mostly an entire team that is coming through who are collaborating, governing the AI models performance, training, and also creating a more transparent environment so that people who are looking at from a very different set is also getting clear idea of what exactly is happening, right? So it's more of a collaborative responsibility of the entire team rather than a single point responsibility, right? So as the AI evolves, so we had neural nets, we had your simple machine learning models, classifier models, to today's entire LLMs. We're having generative models and everywhere. The landscape of AI and usage of AI has evolved drastically over the last year, right? So you'll need to stay informed about all the best practices and also keep an eye on all the frameworks that are coming out. So this might be coming out from OpenAI, Google, or whoever is uh, doing a set of frameworks, right? Who have worked on AI for much longer than we have done. So and also keep track of all the partnerships that are happening, how it might affect you, and also keep a track of the AI's general annual reports that are being sent over, right? So that you'll have a better idea of what exactly is happening and how exactly you can take it over. And industry perspectives, you will also need to keep an eye on what exactly you are looking at, because DevOps in AI is mostly not exactly for one particular industry. You're looking at multiple industries, right? Healthcare, critical systems, or whatever the scenario might be. You'll need to have that perspective so that your AI model is more tuned towards that. And interdisciplinary collaboration, as we spoke before, while building any application based AI model or infrastructure DevOps based AI model, it's always a good idea to have the DevOps team, have the AI/ML experts, and also have the ethicists in a single room, have regular discussions with them, have regular brainstorming, and get to a point where you have good workflows which always prioritize transparency and accountability so that you have a better experience altogether, right? So over here we are not prioritizing anti-biasing a lot, because every team will put in their entire bias in terms of we telling, okay, this is a fair enough data, it will contain some amount of bias. So prioritizing anti-biasing is not should not be an entire part of your process, but prioritizing transparency on those details is much more important, so that other people who are coming in later will have a much better idea on what exactly is happening, or why an AI took this but a particular decision, right? So as I said, like this is sorry, taking a case study. As you said initially, I took a share market model. You can also take the same for an AI approval model. So data collection is key. The historical data for based on credit score, a lot of biases will be available in those details. A lot of discrimination between the high risk takers, low risk takers, everything will be there, right? So you will need to figure out how you can debias that data set, right? And model training is also an active part. So taking that fair data and you train a model which is more fairness aware and also mitigate biases during this development. And also, as was initially mentioned, continuous monitoring is always required. And also, sorry for a bit of havoc in the PPT. I've not seen that. And also the way forward would be, as I said, collaboration. Always maintain collaboration with all of your surrounding team, so that you have much more information and you are well informed about all the things that are happening. Continuous learning, AI is changing rapidly across multiple industries, like just from GPT 3.5 to GPT 4, or the Gemini's initial BART to today's Gemini 1.5 Flash and Pro. The change and the way at the pace things are changing and the way that AI is evolving is incredible, to be honest. So you being at your peak pace in learning makes a lot of difference, right? And also, when you're running your AI model, be more vigilant, be more aware of what exactly is being happening, and also keep an human oversight so that nothing is going haywire. And also, with AI and the blasting open of a lot of possibilities, innovation is the key. Keep innovating, keep experimenting on a lot of things. Might not might not be very feasible at starting. Probably it might turn into a much better system going forward. But yeah, experimenting, innovating, and keeping the ethics at a very high standard during that experimentation will basically create a much better environment when you're going into actual application development and production environments, right? So yeah, that would be it from my side. Thank you.